In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold.
Adam was the first inventor of the arts because he had knowledge of all things as well after the fall as before. Thence he predicted the world's destruction by water. From this cause, too, it came about that his successors erected 2 tablets of stone on which they engraved all natural arts in hieroglyphical characters in order that their posterity might also become acquainted with this prediction. That so it might be heeded and provision made in the time of danger. Subsequently, Noah found one of these tablets under Mount Araroth after the deluge. In this tablet were described the courses of the upper firmament and of the low globe and also of the planets. At length, this universal knowledge was divided into several parts and lessened in its vigor and power. By means of this separation, one man became an astronomer, another a magician, another a Kabbalist, and the fourth, he became an alchemist. Abraham, that volcanic Tubal-Cain, a consummate astrologer and arithmetician, carried the art of the land of Canaan into Egypt, whereupon the Egyptians rose to so great a height and dignity that this wisdom was derived from them by other nations. The patriarch Jacob painted, as it were, the sheep with various colors, and this was done by magic. For in the theology of the Chaldeans, the Hebrews, the Persians, and the Egyptians, they held these arts to be the highest philosophy to be learnt by their chief nobles and their priests. So it was in the time of Moses when both the priests and also the physicians were chosen from among the magi, the priests for the judgment of what related to health, especially in the knowledge of leprosy. Moses, likewise, was instructed in the Egyptian schools at the cost of the care of Pharaoh's daughter, so that he excelled in all the wisdom and the learning of that people. Thus, too, was it with Daniel, who in his youthful days imbibed the learning of the Chaldeans, so that he became a Kabbalist. Witness his divine predictions and his exposition of those words, many, many teklepharis. These words can be understood by the prophetic and the Kabbalistic art, and this Kabbalistic art was perfectly familiar to and in constant use by Moses and the prophets. The prophet Elias foretold many things by his Kabbalistic numbers, and so did the wise men of old. By this natural and mystical art, learn to know God rightly. They abode in his laws and walked in his statutes with great firmaments. It is also evident in the book of Samuel that the Baralists did not follow the devil's part, but became by divine permission partakers of the visions of the veritable apparitions, whereof we shall treat more of at large in the book of supercelestial things. This gift is granted by the Lord God to those priests who walk in the divine precepts. It was a custom among the Persians never to admit anyone as the king unless they were a wise man, preeminent in reality as well as in name. This is clear from the customary names of their kings, for they were called wise men. Such were those wise men that the Persian magi who came from the east to seek out the Lord Jesus, they were called natural priests. The Egyptians, also having obtained this magic and philosophy from the Chaldeans and the Persians, desired that their priests should learn the same wisdom, and they became so fruitful and successful therein that all the neighboring countries admired them. For this reason, Hermes was also truly named Trismegistus, because he was the king. He was a priest, and he was a prophet, a magician, and a sophist of natural things. Such another was Zoroaster, or as he's known around these here parts, Zarathustra. This is chapter 1 of the Aurora of the Philosophers by Theophrastus Paracelsus, which he otherwise calls his Monarchia. Chapter 1 is called Concerning the Origins of the Philosopher's Stone.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Recording high atop the Silver Mountain. This is the Abracast, and I'm John Towers. So, so we asked her, Zarathustra. You can hit the feature topic link at abracast.com. Find the Western philosophy section. We read the whole, Nietzsche's whole book of the Zarathustra. But if you're interested in this alchemical business, the feature topic link also has a section just on all of the alchemy episodes that we've done. We've done a lot of them, and I have my program almost lined out for next year, and there's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of changes. But we're not done with this alchemy business. These are weird episodes. It's always like weird, we might get into it's like weird, the different biles and the different inside your body stuff. I don't know. Anyhow, this evening, the featured book is The Aurora of the Philosophers by Paracelsus. He also calls this the Monarchia. The cold open was the whole of chapter 1, and we're just going to keep moving. Chapter 2, wherein is declared that the Greeks drew a large part of their learning from the Egyptians, and how it came from them to us. That's the name of the chapter. It's almost as long as the chapter is. When a son of Noah possessed the third part of the world after the flood, this art broke into Chaldea and Persia. I think he's probably talking about here. He's probably talking about our dude Nimrod. So after the flood, Nimrod, it was like communism. It was like the first world war, first world socialist movement. Nimrod, the great hunter, assembled the whole population for one goal, and it's like to build this build this tower. You can also hit the featured topic link on Advertise.com and find all of the great episodes we've done on Nimrod and Tammuz, and then you want to get into maybe some of the early Genesis stuff if you're interested in all this. But anyhow, he possessed a third of the whole world after the flood. This art broke into Chaldea and Persia. This is Hollywood, Babylon. And thence spread into Egypt, the art having been found out by the superstitious and idolatrous Greeks. Some of them who were wiser than the rest betook themselves to the Chaldeans and Egyptians so that they might draw the same wisdom from their schools. Since, however, the theological study of the law of Moses did not satisfy them, they trusted their own peculiar genius and fell away from the right foundations of those natural secrets and arts. This is evident from their fabulous conceptions and from their errors respecting the doctrine of Moses. It was the custom of the Egyptians to put forward the traditions of that surpassing wisdom only in enigmatical figures and abstruse histories and terms. This is afterwards followed by Homer with a marvelous poetical skill, and Pythagoras, who also acquainted with it, seeing that he compromised in his writings many things out of the laws of Moses in the Old Testament. In like manner, Hippocrates. You can find some Hippocrates episodes also, by the way, on the feature topic link, Abercast.com. We're familiar with a lot of these characters. Thales of Miletus, Anaxagoras, Democritus, and others did not scruple to fix their minds on the same subject. And yet none of them were practiced in the true astrology, geometry, arithmetic, or medicine because their pride prevented this, since they would not admit disciples belonging to other nations other than their own. Even when they had got some insight from the Chaldeans and the Egyptians, they became more arrogant still than they were before by nature, and without any difficulty propounded the subject substantially indeed, but mixed with the subtle fictions and falsehoods. And then they attempted to elaborate a certain kind of philosophy which descended from them from the Latins. These, in their turn, being educated herewith, adorned it in their own doctrines, and by these philosophies they spread over Europe. Many academies were found for the propagation of their dogmas and rules, so that the young might be instructed. And this system flourishes with the Germans and the other nations right down to this present day. Chapter 3, what was taught in the schools of the Egyptians. The Chaldeans, the Persians, the Egyptians had all of them the same knowledge of the secrets of nature and also the same religion. It was only the names that differed. The Chaldeans and the Persians called their doctrine Sophia and magic. And the Egyptians, because of the sacrifice, called their wisdom priestcraft. The magic of the Persians and the theology of the Egyptians were both of them taught in the schools of old. Though there were many schools and learned men in Arabia, Africa, and Greece, such as Albumezar, Aben Zegiel, Gerber, Reyes, and Avicenna. Among the Arabians and among the Greeks, Macon, Podlerius, Pythagoras. They're going to make me do this one. Anaxagoras, Democritus, Plato, Aristotle, Rodinius. And there were different opinions amongst them as to the wisdom of the Egyptian on points wherein they themselves differed, and whereupon they disagreed with it. For the reasons Pythagoras could not be called a wise man, because the Egyptian priestcraft and the wisdom were not perfectly taught. Although he received therefrom many mysteries and arcana, and that Anaxagoras had received the great many as well, is clear from his discussion on the subject of soul and its stone, which he left behind him after his death. Yet he differed in many respects from the Egyptians, and even they would not be called wise men or magi, but following Pythagoras, they assumed the name of philosophy. Yet they gathered no more than a few gleams like shadows from this magic of the Persians and the Egyptians, but Moses, Abraham, Solomon, Adam, and the wise men that came from the east to Jesus Christ were true magi, divine sophists and Kabbalists of the art and the wisdom of the Greeks, knew very little or nothing at all. And therefore we shall leave this philosophical wisdom of the Greeks as being mere speculation, utterly distinct and separate from other true arts and sciences. Throwing shade. Look at this guy. Also, big props to the Soul Stone reference. The Soul Stone holds a special place among the Infinity Stones. Chapter 4. What magi the Chaldeans, the Persians, and the Egyptians were. Many persons have endeavored to investigate and make use of the secret magic of these wise men, but it has not yet been accomplished. Many even of our own age exalt Thrithmius, others Bacon and Agrippa for magic and the Kabbalah. Two things apparently quite distinct, not knowing why they do so. Magic indeed is an art and a faculty whereby the elementary bodies, their fruits, properties, virtues, and hidden operations are comprehended, but the Kabbalah, by a subtle understanding of the scriptures, seem to trace out the way to God for men. To shew this translation is dodgy. If you're wondering why I'm having so much problems with this, I believe it should be to show them how they may act with him and prophecy from him. For the Kabbalah is full of divine mysteries, even as magic is full of natural secrets. It teaches of and foretells from the nature of things to come, as well as those things present, since its operation consists in the knowing of the inner constitution of all creatures, of celestial as well as terrestrial bodies, what is latent within them, what are their occult virtues, for what they were originally designed, and with what properties they are endowed. So if you're interested about the Kabbalah, you can hit the featured topic link at Advertise.com and find a whole section on the Kabbalah as well. These and the like subjects are the bonds wherewith things celestial and bound up with things of the earth, as above and so below, as many sometimes be seen in their operations even with the bodily eyes, such a conjunction of celestial influences, whereby the heavenly virtues acting upon inferior bodies was formed and called by the Magi Gemina, or the marriage of the celestial powers and the properties with elementary bodies. Hence ensued the excellent commixtures of all bodies, celestial and terrestrial, namely of the sun and the planets, and likewise the vegetables and the minerals and the animals and the little baby Jesus. The devil attempted with his whole force and endeavor to darken this light, nor was he wholly frustrated in his hopes, for he deprived all Greece of it, and in a place thereof introduced among that people human speculations and simple blasphemies against a god and against his son Jesus Christ. Magic, it is true, had its origins in the divine tyranny and rose from the Trinity of God. For God marked all his creatures with the tyranny and engraved its hieroglyph on them with his own finger. Nothing in nature of the things can be assigned or produced that lacks the majesty of this divine tyranny, or that does not even ocularly prove it. The creature teaches us to understand and see the Creator himself. As St. Paul testifies to the Romans, this covenant of the divine tyranny diffused throughout the whole substance of things. It's indissoluble by this. Also, we have the secrets of all nature from the four elements for the tyranny, which magical quaternary produces the perfect septenary. So all the things with 3 parts, with the magical 4 parts, we know produces a perfect septenary. The septenary is the way the major arcana of the tarot cards are divided. You can go on to the feature topic link at Advertise.com and learn all about it. You can also order my set of tarot cards from Advertise.com. Go to the storefront. You can find a pretty cool presentation with the artwork of the cards. And on the back of the card, like where there's usually just like some kind of bullshit print or whatever, it has the mechanics of how the cards and the suits and the even the 2 different arcanas, how they are related to each other. It's very interesting. It has to do right with this. The 3 to the 4 produces the perfect septenary. Endowed with many arcana and demonstrated by things which are known when the quaternary rests in the tyranny. Then arises the light of the world on the horizon of eternity, and by the assistance of God gives us the whole bond. Here, also, it refers to the virtues and the operations of all creatures and to their use, since they are stamped and marked with their arcana, signs, characters, and figures, so that there is left in them scarcely the smallest occult point which is not made clear on examination. Then the quaternary and the tyranny mount to the denary and accomplish their retrogression or reduction to unity. Here is compromised all the occult wisdom of things which God has made plainly manifest to men, both his word and the creatures of his hands, so they may have a true understanding of them. This shall be made more clear in another place. Chapter 5, concerning the chief and supreme essence of things. The Magi, in their wisdom, asserted that all creatures might be brought to one unified substance. Communism. Damn it. Which substance, they affirm, may, by purification and purgations, attain to so high a degree of subtlety, such divine nature and occult property, as to work wonderful results, for they considered that by returning to the earth and by the supreme magical separation, a certain perfect substance would come forth, which is at length by many industrious and prolonged preparations exalted and raised up on the range of vegetable substances into mineral, and above mineral into metallic, and above the perfect metallic substance into the perpetual and divine quintessence. including in itself the essence of all celestial and terrestrial creatures. The Arabs and the Greeks, by the occult characters and hieroglyphic descriptions of the Persians and the Egyptians, attained to secret abstruse mysteries. When these were obtained and partially understood, they saw with their own eyes, in the course of experimenting, many wonderful and strange effects. But since the supercelestial operations lay more deeply hidden in their capacity could penetrate, they did not call this supercelestial arcanum according to the institutions of the Magi, but the arcanum of the Philosopher's Stone, according to the counsel and the judgment of Pythagoras. Whoever obtained this stone overshadowed it with various enigmatical figures, deceptive resemblances, comparisons, and fictitious titles, so that its matter might remain occult. Very little or no knowledge of it, therefore, can be had from them. Chapter 6. Concerning the different errors as to its discovery and knowledge. The philosophers have prefixed most occult names on the matter of the stone, grounded on mere similitudes. Arnold observing this, saying that his rosary, that this greatest difficulty is but to find out the material of this stone. For they have called it vegetable, animal, and mineral, but not according to the literal sense, which is well known for such wise men to have had experience of divine secrets and the miracles of the same stone. For example, Raymond Lully's Lunaria may be cited. This gives flowers of admirable virtue familiar to the philosophers themselves, but it was not the intent of those philosophers that you should think they meant thereby any projection upon metals, or that any such preparations should be made, but the abstruse mind of the philosophers had other intentions. In like manner, they called their matter by the name Martagon. Alright, I fucked that up. They called their matter by the name Margaton, to which they applied an occult alchemical operation. When notwithstanding that name, it denotes nothing more than a hidden similitude. Moreover, no small error has arisen in the liquid of vegetables, with which a good many have sought to coagulate mercury, and afterwards to convert it with its fixatory waters into Luna, since they suppose that he who in this way could coagulate it without the aid of metals would succeed in becoming the chief master. Now, although the liquids of some vegetables do affect this, yet the result is due merely to the resin, the fat, and the earthly sulfur with which they abound. This attracts to itself the moisture of the mercury, which rises with the substance of the process of coagulation, but without any advantage resulting. I am well assured that no thick and external sulfur in vegetables is adapted for the perfect projection in alchemy. As some have found out to their cost, certain persons it is true, coagulated mercury with the white milky juice of titanol, on account of the intense heat which exists therein. And they have called that liquid lac virginis. Hey! Here's to lac virginis. Yet there is a false basis that seems, or that same may be asserted concerning the juice of the silidine, although the colors just as though were endowed with gold. Hence people conceived a vain idea at a certain fixed time. They rooted up this vegetable from which they sought for the soul of its quintessence, wherefrom they might make the coagulating and transforming tincture. But hence arose nothing save foolish error. Foolish error.
Learn more at abracast.com. Get bonus content by signing up for the mailing list.
All right, concerning the chapter 7, concerning the errors of those who seek the stone in vegetables. Just a forewarning here, I'm going to have a lot of problems with some of the words in this chapter. More so than I've already demonstrated, I'm afraid. Some alchemists have pressed a juice out of a celandine, boiled it to thickness, and put it to the sun so that it may coagulate into a hard mass, which, being afterwards pounded into a fine black powder, should turn mercury by projection into soul. This they also found to be in vain. Other mixed sal ammoniac with this power, others the clocathar of virtual, supposing that they would thus arrive at the desired result. They brought it by their solutions into a yellow water, so that the sol and ammoniac allowed an entrance of the tincture into the substance of the mercury. Yet again, nothing was accomplished. There was some again who, instead of the above-mentioned substance, take the juices of the Persicaria, Bufinaria, Draconolingus, the leaves of the willow, themiol, capitulol, and flammula, and the like, and shut them into a glass vessel with mercury. We always see this in these alchemical things. You take a bunch of unrelated stuff and you shut it into a black or a closed system, and then you cook the system, and then you let water go in. We always see some kind of process like this. And of course, it's all just, some sort of metaphor. The sealed glass vessel is like the vulva, and, in putting in the tinctures and the different colors and all this stuff is like you're coming into it. The magical joining of the opposites, the as above, the so below. It's all about fucking. While I'm on the topic, and I forgot to mention it before, there's an awesome alchemical process t-shirt available on the storefront at Advertise.com. It's this awesome black and white. It's a reproduction of an old graphic from some old grimoire or alchemical instruction book. It's pretty cool. It's like it's the Ouroboros, but instead of the snake eating its own tail, it's like a winged dragon eating the tail of like a dragon with feet. It's really sweet. Check it out if you're interested in it. That's it. I'm not going to beat you up over it. That's what it is. And thus it comes about that the mercury is turned into ashes, and deceptively and without result. These people were misled by the vain rumors of the vulgar who give it out that he who is able to coagulate mercury without metals is the entire magistry. As we have said before, many too have extracted salts and oils and sulfurs artificially out of vegetables, but quite in vain. Out of such salts, oils, and sulfurs, no coagulation of mercury, or the perfect projection of tincture can be made. But when the philosophers compare their matter to a certain golden tree of 7 boughs, they mean that such matter includes all 7 metals in its sperm. I'm really like just a 7th grader with a bottle of gin and these old books in a recording studio. And that in these lie hidden. On this account, they are called their matter vegetable because in the case of natural trees, they also in their time produce various flowers. So too, the matters of the stone shows more beautiful colors in the production of the flowers. In comparison is apt because a certain matter rises out of the philosophical earth, as it were a thicket of branches and sprouts like a sponge growing on the earth. And they say, therefore, that the fruit of their trees tend towards heaven. So then they put forth that the whole thing hinged upon natural vegetables, though not as to its matter, because their stone contains within itself a body, a soul, and a spirit, as vegetables do. Chapter 8, concerning those who have sought the stone in animals. They have also by name, based on the resemblance, called this matter, lac virginis. And they, blessed blood of the rosy color. Blessed blood of the rosy color, which nevertheless suits only the prophets and sons of God. Hence, the sophists gathered that the philosophical matter was the blood of animals, or of man, or of woman. I'll say it, even though Paracelsus isn't saying it. The blessed blood of rosy color. The philosophical matter was the blood of animals, or of man, ... or of woman. Not to put too fine a point on it. Sometimes, too, because they are nourished by vegetables. Others have sought in its hairs the salt of urine, of rebus, and other in hens' eggs and milk, in the calx of eggshells, with all which they have thought they would be able to fix mercury. Some have extracted salt out of the, I think it's fetid urine, supposing that it was to be the matter of the stone, and some persons again have considered the little stones found in the rebus to be matter. Others have macerated the membranes of eggs in the sharp lixivium, of which they also mix the calcinated eggshells as white as snow. I mean, to these they have attributed the arcanum of the fixation for the transmutation of mercury. Others, comparing the white of the egg to silver and the yolk of gold, have chosen it for their matter, mixing it with common salt, sal, ammoniac, and burnt tartar. Tartar sauce. You know, tartar sauce, it was originally invented to go with steak tartar. That's what it was called. So steak tartar, I remember I learned of this. When did I learn it? There was a movie called The Waxworks, like in the 80s, and in it, it's about these kids that get trapped in this wax museum, and they get to like zip back in history wherever they cross the line of the thing, and they fall into Marquis de Sade's world, and I think he's eating steak tartare, and they explain that it's raw steak, and I'm like, that sounds dope and beyond craziness. And is that health conscious? Should you be eating steak that's not cooked? Anyhow, this is long before I knew anything about cooking. But the thing that I'm trying to get at is tartar sauce was invented to put on steak tartare. How it wound up being fish sauce for fried fish, I have no idea. But I love the shit. I fucking love it. Anyhow, this is burnt tartare. And I know that fishy swir is meant to be served cold because that's in Batman. Where Bruce Wayne eats the soup and he's like, this is cold. And Alfred goes, it's fishy swir, sir. It's meant to be served cold. Anyhow, just like revenge. The Klingons say revenge is a dish best to be served cold. So, okay, I'm getting bored with this, I think. Okay, here we go. I'm going to drive on. Here we go again. They shut up in a glass vessel and purified in balium maris until the white matter became red as blood. This again they distilled into a most offensive liquid, utterly useless for the purpose they had in view. Other have purified the white and the yolk of eggs, which have been generated by a basilisk, and they burnt it to a deep red powder and sought to tinge with it. And they learnt from the treatise of the Cardinal Gilbert. Many again have massacred the galls of oxens and mixed with common salt and distilled into a liquid with which they moistened with cemetery powders, proposing that by means of magistry they would tinge their metals. This they called the names of a part, thence came just nothing. Others have attempted to transmute tuchia by the addition of dragon's blood and other substances, and also to change copper into electrium into gold. Others, according to the Venetian art, as they called it, to take 20 lizard-like animals, more or less, and shut them up in a vessel and make them mad with hunger so that they may devour one another until only one of them survives. It's like the fucking Thunderdome. This one is then fed with filings of copper or of electrium, and they suppose this animal, simply by the digestion of its stomach, will bring about the desired transmutation. Finally, they burn this animal into a red powder, which they thought must be gold, but they were deceived. Another, again, having burnt the fishes called trouts, have sometimes, upon melting them, found some gold in them. But there is another reason for it than this. Those fish, sometimes in rivers and streams, meet with certain small scales of sparks of gold, which they eat. Does anyone buy that? Does anyone buy if you melt a trout down, you might get a little bit of gold out of it because it eats gold that it finds in the river? It is seldom, however, that such deceivers are found, and then chiefly in the courts of princes. In matters of the philosophers is not to be sought in animals, and I announce to all, still it is evident that the philosophers call their stone animal, because in their final operation the virtue of this most excellent fiery mystery caused an obscure liquid to extrude drop by drop from the matter of their vessel. Hence, they predict that at the last times there should be a most pure man upon the earth, by whom the redemption of the world shall be brought about, and that this should send forth the bloody drops of red color, by means of which he should redeem the world from sin. In this same way, after his own kind, the blood of their stone freed the leprous metals from their infirmities and contagions, and on these grounds, therefore, they suppose they were justified in saying that their stone was animal. Concerning this mystery, Mercurius speaks as following to the king Khalid. This mystery, it is permitted only to the prophets of God to know. Hence, it comes to pass that this stone is called animal because its blood, a soul, lies hid. It is likewise composed of body, spirit, and a soul. For the same reason they called it their microcosm, because it has the likeness of all things in this world, and thence they termed it animal, as Plato named the greater world an animal. Unquote. This reminds me of, Carl Sagan's "We're all built of stars" and all this kind of stuff. Chapter 9. Concerning those who have sought the stone in minerals. Here too are added the many ignorant men who suppose the stone to be threefold, and they have a hidden in a triple genus named vegetable, animal, and mineral. Hence, it is they who have sought for it in minerals. Now it is by far from the opinion of these philosophers they attain that their stone is uniformly vegetable, animal, and mineral. Now, here note the nature has distributed its mineral sperm into various kinds, as for instance into the sulfurs, the salts, the boraxes, the nitrates, the ammoniacs, the alums, the arsenics, the atraments, the vitriols, the tuates, hematites, ornamentus, regularis, magnesius, cinnabar, antimony, talc. Chemistry 101 is failing me. In all these, nature has not yet attained to our matter, although in some of the species named it displays itself in a wonderful aspect. For the transmutation of imperfect metals, and they are to be brought to perfection. Truly, long experience and practice with fire show many of the various permutations in the matter of the minerals, not only from one color to another, but from one essence to another, and from one imperfection to perfection. And although nature has, by means of preparing minerals, reached some perfection, yet philosophers will not have it at the matter of the philosophic stone proceeds out of any of the minerals, although they say the stone is universal. Hence, then, the sophists take occasion to persecute Mercury himself in various torments with the sublimation, coagulations, mercurial waters, aquafortis, and the like. And all these erroneous ways should be avoided, together with another sophistical preparations of materials and purgations and fixations of the spirit and the metal. Wherefore all the preparations of the stone, as of Gerber, Albertus, Magnus, and the rest, are sophical. Their purgations, cementations, sublimations, distillations, rectifications, circulations, putrefacitions, conjunctions, solutions, ascensions, coagulations, calcinations, and incinerations are utterly profitless, both in the tripod of the Athenor and the reverberatory furnace and the melting furnace of the acidonium. Here we go. Remember at the beginning of the show I mentioned poop? The melting furnace, the acidonium, and dung, ashes, and sand, and whatnot. It also is the cucurbite, the pelican retort, filial, fixatory, and the rest. The same opinion must be passed on the sublimation of mercury by the mineral spirits for the white and the red, the white and the red, the white lion and the red phoenix, the red phoenix or the red lion and the white phoenix. It's all about fucking as by virtual saltpeter, alum, caracus, etc., concerning all which subjects that sophist John D. Rupeskia romances in his treatise on the white and the red philosophical stones. Taken all together, they are merely a deceitful dreams. Avoid also the peculiar sophistry of Gerber, for example, his sevenfold sublimations or mortifications, and also the revivifications of mercury, with which preparations of salts and urine or salts made by the sepulchre, all which things are untrustworthy. Some others have endeavored to fix mercury with the sulfurs of the minerals and the metals, which have been greatly deceived. It is true, I have seen mercury by this art, and by such fixations brought into the metallic body, resembling and counterfeiting good silver in all respects. But when brought to the test, it has shown itself to be false. Chapter 10. Concerning those who have sought the stone and also particulars and minerals. Some sophists have tried to squeeze out a fixed oil from mercury, 7 times sublimed and as often dissolved by means of aqua fortis. In this way, the attempt to bring imperfect metals into perfection. I'm sorry, my nose is going crazy. I'm trying to be cool about it, but they have been obliged to relinquish their vain endeavors. Some have purged vitriol 7 times by calcination, solution, and coagulation, and the addition of the 2 parts of sal ammoniac, and by sublimation, so that it might be resolved into a white water, which they have added a 3rd part of quicksilver. And then it might be coagulated by water, and then afterwards they sublimated the mercury several times from the vitriol and the sal ammoniac. I want to name a character sal ammoniac, by the way, so that this became a stone. This stone, they affirm to be conceived of the vitriol to be the red sulfur of the philosophers, with which they have, by means of solution and coagulation, made some progress in attaining the stone. But in progression, it has all come to nothing. Others have coagulated mercury by water of alum into a hard mass like the aluminum, I'll just say it itself, and this they have fruitlessly fixed with the fixatory waters. The sophists propose to themselves very many ways of fixing mercury, but to no purpose. For therein nothing perfect or constant can be had. It is therefore in vain to add materials thereto by sophistical processes sent by all them. He is stirred up to greater malice by rendering more lively and rather brought to the mystery of impurity than to any kind of perfection. So then the philosopher's matter is to be sought from thence. Mercury is somewhat imperfect, and to bring it to perfection will be very difficult, nay, impossible for the sophist. There is nothing therein that can be stirred up or compelled to perfection. Some have taken arsenic several times sublimated and frequently dissolved with oil of tartar and coagulated. This they have pretended to fix, and by it to turn copper into silver. This, however, is merely esophageal whitening, for arsenic cannot be fixed unless the operator be an artist and know well the tingering spirit. Truly, this is respect to all philosophers. Truly, in this respect, all philosophers have slept vainly, attempting to accomplish anything thereby. Whoever, therefore, is ignorant to this spirit cannot have any hopes of fixing it or of giving it that power which could make it capable of the virtue of transmutation. So then I give notice to all that the whitening of which I have now spoken, grounded in false bias, and that the copper is deceitfully whitened but not changed. Now the sophists have mixed this counterfeit of Venus with twice its weight of Luna and sold it to the goldsmiths and mint masters until the last have transmuted themselves into false coiners. Not only those who sold, but those who bought it, some sophists instead of white arsenic take red, and this has turned out false art, because however it is prepared, it proves to be nothing but whiteness. Some again have gone further to dealt with common sulfur, which being so yellow that they have boiled in vinegar, lixivium, or sharpest wines. Hey, here we go. For a day and a night until it became white, and then afterwards they sublimated it from common salt and the calcium of eggs, repeating the process several times, yet still, though white, it has been always combustible. Nevertheless, with this they have endeavored to fix mercury and turn it into gold, but in vain. From this, however, comes the most excellent and beautiful cinnabar that I have ever seen. And this they propose to fix with the oily sulfur by cementation or fixation. It does indeed give something of an appearance, but still falls short of the desired object. Others have reduced common sulfur to the form of hepar, boiling it in vinegar, and the addition of linseed oil or latarine oil or olive oil. Pour into a marble mortar and then make it into the form of a hepar, which they have first distilled into citrine oil with a gentle fire. They have found to be their loss, that they could not do anything in the way of transmuting Luna to Sol, the moon to the sun. They have supposed that they would be able. As there is an infinite number of metals, there is also in such a variety in the permutation of them. I shall not make further mention of these in this place, because each a mold would require a special treatise. Beware also the sophisticated oils of vitriol and antimony. Likewise, be on your guard against the oils of metal, perfect and imperfect, as Sol or Luna, because otherwise the operation of these most potent in the nature of things. And yet the true process is known. Even at this day, to this very persons abstain from the sophistical preparation of common mercury, arsenic, sulfur, and the like by sublimation, dissension, fixation by vinegar, saltpeter, tartar sauce, vitriol, sal ammoniac, that scamp, according to the formula as prescribed by the Book of the Sophist. Likewise, avoid the sophisticated tinctures taken from the Marcastices, the Crotus of Mars, and also of the sophistication called by the names of a part within a part, and the fixed Luna, and similar trifles. Although they have some superficial appearance of truth, as the fixation of Luna and the little labor and industry and the progress of the preparation is worthless and weak. Being therefore moved with compassion towards the well-meaning operators of the art, I have determined to lay open the whole foundation of philosophy in 3 separate arcana, namely, in one explained by arsenic, in a second by vitriol, and a third by antimony, by means of which I will teach the true progressions upon mercury and upon the imperfect metals. All right. Well, stay tuned for the next we'll finish this up in the next episode. Well, we'll finish this up in the last episode of the year. We'll try to wrap this up in the last episode of the year. I'm John. This has been the Ambercast. I wish you all a happy, Merry Christmas, happy, Kwanzaa, Saturnalia, whatever it is that's getting you through this crazy year, and however you're choosing to celebrate it with your loved ones. I wish a merry or happy or fantastic for you. I thank you guys so much for listening to the show, and I hope in some way I have been able to help you pass this time in this crazy situation these crazy situations we found ourselves in this year, and things are changing. A lot of stuff for the show is going away. I truly am I'm not getting rid of the show. I'm not abandoning the show, but there's been some things going on, and I do have to kind of downscale the stuff. So, I've been talking about the Discord server. That's going to go away. The newsletter is probably going to get turned into just, some kind of email or something. I'm not exactly sure, but things are going to be changing here. You might have already sensed it. I mean, there's already been some changes in the last couple weeks. This is just the way it's going to happen. But I don't want to, it's not a sob story. It's just life fucking changes shit, dude. It's just like alchemy. You have something, it busts down, you break it down into a bunch of different parts, and then you reform it, and then what comes next is something that's totally different, but hopefully kind of the same. So that's what's going on with the show. And for you guys that have supported me on Patreon, I thank you so much, and I'm so sorry that's going away, but it's just going away. It's going away. I don't know what's going to happen with Subscribestar or any of that stuff. But thank you guys for all of your support, and we're going to trucking on. I'm looking at the stacks of stuff that I have coming up for next year. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be fun and sort of it's a little bit intimidating. So I'm John. This is the Abercast, and again, happy holidays, whatever your holidays are. Happy holidays to you and yours, and please be careful. I'll talk to you again before New Year's, but please remember to be safe on those roads. Those cops don't give a fuck about your rights, and I always try to remind you of that. Anyhow, I'm John. This is the Abercast. Happy holidays to everybody, and I love you. I love you all. Reach out to me. Let me know what's going on with you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Hey, did you learn something? Did you laugh? Supporting me is a way for you to be a part of the Abercast and ensure its growth and sustainability. It also means I can create a normal schedule for shows and bonus shows, as well as the exclusive Fellowcraft episodes. By supporting the show, you are not only a listener, but you are a part of the show. You supporting the show gives me a way to offer fun rewards as a thank you for showing your appreciation and support for our projects. Do you have an idea for a reward that you don't see? Let me know. My supporters are my partners. I currently pay for you to listen to the Abercast. Not only do I pay the hosting bills out of my own pocket, I volunteer my time and talent to each and every episode of the Abercast. The price of books, the time and resources of reading and researching, the massive amounts of gin and tonic needed, the equipment it takes to record the shows, the time and resources it takes to create the bonus material, and the cost to maintain the internet presence. Is it worth your support? I don't know. I'm proud of the Abercast, and I feel like I'm improving all the time. In addition to creating the show that you dig and that you are excited about, I also have a full-time commitment and other obligations. So why financial support? All of the supporters help me focus my time on the quality and development of the podcast. And what if you can't afford, $1 or $3 or $10 or whatever a month? Believe me, I get that. There are many degrees of support, but if you can't support the show financially, please consider leaving a 5-star rate and review on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget that you could sign into the mailing list and still unlock a lot of bonus content. Thank you. I cannot put into words how much it means to me that you listen to the show each time I post a new episode. Your feedback, support, and love of the stories that we talk about here is what keeps me going.